verses 28 and 29. In the throat is the lotus called Vishuddha, which is pure and of a smoky purple hue. All the 16 shining vowels on its 16 petals of a crimson hue are distinctly visible to him whose mind, buddhi, is illumined. In the pericap of this lotus there is the ethereal region, circular in shape, and white like the full moon. On an elephant, white as snow, is seated the bija of Ambara, who is white of color. Of his 4 arms, 2 hold the noose and goad, and the other 2 make the gestures of granting boons and dispelling fear. These add to his beauty. In his lap there ever dwells the great snow-white Deva, 3-eyed and 5-faced, with 10 beautiful arms, and clothed in a tiger's skin. His body is united with that of Girija, and he is known by what his name Sada Shiva signifies. Commentary. The Vishuddha Chakra is described in 4 verses, beginning with these: because by the sight of the Hamsa the Jiva attains purity, this Padma or lotus is therefore called Vishuddha, meaning pure, ethereal, great and excellent. In the region of the throat is the lotus called Vishuddha, that is, pure, Amala without purity, by reason of its being Tejo Maya, meaning its substance is Tejas, and hence free from impurity. All the vowels Svarya, Sarvaya, that is, all the vowels beginning with A kara and ending with Visarga, altogether 16 in number, shining on the petals, Dara Parilasita. The vowels being 16 in number, the number of petals which this lotus possesses is shown by implication to be 16 also. Elsewhere this has been clearly stated. Above it, that's Anahata, is the lotus of 16 petals, of a smoky purple color. Its petals bear the 16 vowels, red in color with the bindu above them. Its filaments are ruddy, and it is adorned by Vyoma Mandala. Distinctly visible, Dipitam. These letters are lighted up, as it were, for the enlightened mind, Dipta Buddhi. Whose mind, buddhi, is illumined, refers to the person whose buddhi or intellect has become free from the impurity of worldly pursuits as the result of constant practice of yoga. The ethereal region, circular in shape and white like the full moon, Purnendu Pratya Tama Nabho Mandalam Vrittarapam. The ethereal region is circular in shape, Vrittarupa, and its roundness resembles that of the full moon, and like the moon, it is also white. The Sharada says, "The wise know that the mandalas participate in the luster of their peculiar elements. The mandalas are of the color of their respective devatas and elements. Ether is white, hence its mandala is also white. In the pericap of this lotus is the circular ethereal region, Nabho Mandalam Vritta Rupam. In the lap of this white ambara of or ethereal region ever dwells Sadashiva, who is spoken of in the second of these two verses. On an elephant, white as snow, is seated. Himma Chichya Nago Pari Lasita Tanu. This qualifies Ambara. Naga here means an elephant and not a serpent. The Bhutashuddhi clearly says, inside it is the white bija of Vyoma on a snow-white elephant. Literally, his body shows resplendent on an elephant because he is seated thereon. The bija of Ambara. Tasya Mano. Tasya Mano means literally his mantra, which is the bija of ether or hum. His 4 arms, 2 of which hold the pasha, noose, ankusha, goad, and the other 2 are in the gestures granting boons and dispelling fear, add to his beauty. Bujai Pashbit Yanksha Varalasita Shobhitam Gasya. The meaning, in short, is that in his hands he is carrying the pasha and ankusha and making the gestures of dispelling fear and granting boons. In the lap of his bija, Tasya Manoranke. He is here in his bija form, in the form of hum, which is Akasha bija. This shows the presence of the bija of ether in the pericap of this lotus, and we are to meditate upon it as here described. The snow-white deva, whose body is united with, or inseparable from, that of Girija. Girija Binna Deha. By this is meant Ardhana Rishvara. The Deva Ardhana Rishvara is of a golden color on the left and snow white on the right. He dwells in the lap of Nabho Bija. He is described as the Deva Sadashiva, garbed in white raiment, half his body being inseparable from that of Girija. He is both silvern and golden. He is also spoken of as possessed of the downturned digit, Kala, of the moon, which constantly drops nectar. The Nirvana Tantra, in dealing with the Vishuddha Chakra, says, within the yantra is the bull, and over it, in a lion seat, Simhasana. On this is the eternal Gauri, and on her right is Sadashiva. He has 5 faces and 3 eyes to each face. His body is smeared with ashes, and he is like a mountain of silver. The Deva is wearing the skin of a tiger, and garlands of snakes are his ornaments. The eternal Gauri, Sada Gauri, is there as half of Shiva's body. She is in the same place spoken of as the Gauri, the mother of the universe, who is the other half of the body of Shiva. With 10 beautiful arms, Lalita Dasha Bhuja. The author here has said nothing of what weapons the Deva has in his hands. In a dhyana elsewhere he has spoken of as carrying in his hands the shula or trident, the tanka battle axe, the kripana sword, the vajra thunderbolt, the hana fire, the nagendra snake king, the ghanta bell, the ankusha goad, pasha noose, and making the gesture dispelling fear, abhitikara. In meditating on him, therefore, he should be thought of as carrying these implements and substances and making these gestures in and by 10 arms. Great Prasiddha, here well known for his greatness. The rest can be easily understood. Verse 30. Purer than the ocean of nectar is the Shakti Shakini who dwells in this lotus. Her raiment is yellow, and in her 4 lotus hands she carries the bow, the arrow, the noose, and the goad. The whole region of the moon, without the mark of the hair, is in the pericap of this lotus. This region is the gateway of great liberation for him who desires the wealth of yoga and whose senses are pure and controlled. Commentary. Here the author speaks of the presence of Shakini in the pericap of the Vishuddha lotus, purer than the ocean of nectar. Suddha Sindhu Shuddha. The ocean of nectar is white and cool and makes immortal. Shakini, who is the form of light itself, is white and heatless. In the following dhyana of Shakini, she is described in detail. Let the excellent sadhaka meditate in the throat lotus on the Devi Shakini. She is light itself, Jyoti Swarupa. Each of her 5 beautiful faces is shining with 3 eyes. In her lotus hands she carries the noose, the goad, the sign of the book, and makes the jnana mudra. She maddens or distracts all the mass of pashus, and she has her abode in the bone. She is fond of milk food, and related with the nectar which she has drunk. By the expression, she is light itself, in the above dhyana, it is meant that she is white, whiteness being characteristic of light. The 2 dhyanas differ as regards the weapons the Devi has in her hands. This is due to differences in the nature of the sadhaka's aim. The Devi is in the lunar region, Chandramandala, within the pericap. The Prema Yoga Taramgini says, here dwells the Shakti Shakini in the auspicious region of the moon. In this lotus, Kamale, that is, in the pericap of the Vishuddha Chakra. In this pericap is the spotless region of the moon without the mark of a hair. Shashapararita conveys the same meaning. The spots on the moon are called the sign of the hair, the stain on the moon. She is likened to the stainless moon. the gateway of great liberation, Mahamoksha Dwara. This is attributive of Mandala, the lunar region, and is used in praise of the Mandala. It is the gateway of liberation, of Nirvana Mukti, for those who have purified and conquered their senses, among other practices, by meditating on this in the path of yoga. They attain liberation, or mukti. Who desires the wealth of yoga? Shriyama Bhimata Shilasya. By Shri is meant the wealth of yoga. For him who by his very nature desires the wealth of yoga, that is the gateway of liberation. This clearly explains the meaning of Shuddhendriya, whose senses are pure and controlled. In the pericap of this lotus is the Nabho Mandala, or ethereal region. Inside the latter is the triangle, Trikona. Inside the triangle is the Chandra Mandala, and inside it is the Nabho Bija, and so forth. Think of the full moon in the triangle within the pericap. There think of the snowy Akasha seated on an elephant, and whose raiment is white. There is the Deva, Sadashiva, whose raiment is white, qualifies Akasha. Verse 31. He who has attained complete knowledge of the Atma, Brahman, becomes, by constantly concentrating his mind, Chitta, on this lotus, a great sage, eloquent and wise, and enjoys uninterrupted peace of mind. He sees the three periods and becomes the benefactor of all, free from disease and sorrow, and long-lived, and like Hamsa, the destroyer of endless dangers. Commentary. In this verse, he speaks of the good gained by meditating on the Vishuddha Chakra. He who has attained, etc. Atma Sampurna Yoga. He whose knowledge of the Atman is complete by realization of the fact that it is all-pervading. Atman is Brahman. According to another reading, Atta Sampurna Yoga, the meaning would be one who has attained perfection in yoga. Hence, the venerable teacher has said, one who has attained complete knowledge of the Atma reposes like the still waters of the deep. The sadhaka who fixes his chitta on the lotus and thereby acquires a full knowledge of the Brahman becomes a knower, or jnani, that is, becomes possessed of the knowledge of all the Shastras without instruction therein. His chitta becomes peaceful. He becomes merciful towards all, not looking for any return thereof. He is constant, gentle, steady, modest, courageous, forgiving, self-controlled, pure, and the like, and free from greed, malice, and pride. He sees the three periods, Trikaladarshi, that is, by the knowledge acquired by yoga, he sees everything in the past, present, and future. Some say that the meaning of this is that the yogi has seen the self, Atma, and as all objects of knowledge are therein, they become visible to him. Free from disease and sorrow, Roga Shoka Parmuta, That is, by having attained Siddhi in his mantra, he becomes free from diseases and long-lived, and by reason of his having freed himself from the bonds of Maya, he feels no sorrow. Like Kamsa, the destroyer of endless dangers, Nirvadi Vipadam Dvamsa Hamsa Praksha. From acts of good and evil, various dangers arise. The sadhaka becomes like the Hamsa, which is the Antaratma that dwells by the pericarp of the Sahasrara, for he can destroy all such dangers, and in the result open the gates of liberation or moksha. Hamsa is the form of the Antaratma. The rest is clear. Summary of the Vishuddha Chakra. At the base of the throat is the Vishuddha Chakra, with 16 petals of smoky purple hue. Its filaments are ruddy, and the 16 vowels, which are red and have the bindu above them, are on the petals. In its pericarp is the ethereal region, Nabho Mandala, circular and white. Inside it is the Chandra Mandala, and above it is the bija Ham. This bija is white and garmented in white, seated on an elephant, and is four-armed. In his four hands he holds the pasha or noose and ankusha or goad, and makes the Vara Mudra and the Abhya Mudra. In his lap is Sadashiva, seated on a great lion seat, which is placed on the back of a bull. He is in his form of Ardhana Rishvara, and as such half his body is the color of snow, and the other half is the color of gold. He has 5 faces and 10 arms, and in his hands he holds the Shula or trident, and Tamka or battle axe, the Khadga or sacrificial sword, the Vajra or thunderbolt, the Dahana, the Nagendra or great snake, the Ghanta or bell, the Ankusha or goad, the Pasha or noose, and makes the Abhya Mudra. He wears a tiger's skin. His whole body is smeared with ashes, and he has a garland of snakes round his neck. The nectar dropping from the downturned digit of the moon is on his forehead. Within the pericarp and in the lunar region and seated on bones is the Shakti Shakini, white in color, 4-armed, 5-faced, and 3-eyed, clothed in yellow, and carrying in her hand a bow, an arrow, a noose, and a goad. Verse 31a. The yogi, his mind constantly fixed on this lotus, his breath controlled by Kumbhaka, is in his wrath able to move all the 3 worlds. Neither Brahma nor Vishnu, neither Harihara nor Surya nor Ganpati is able to control his power or resist him. Commentary. His breath controlled by Kumbhaka. Attapavana. Literally it means, who has taken the air in, which is done by Kumbhaka. Hari Hara. The Yugala or coupled form, consisting of Vishnu and Shiva combined. Surya. Kamani. This word means the jewel of the sky or Surya. Here ends the fifth section.